Alrighty, guys, we are live. Thank you, Mary, for joining this with me. Let's put this together for our groups. For those of you that don't know Mary, for those of you from my group that don't know already, Mary is from the Rule Your Rankings group. And for those coming from Mary, we're the Web Legends. We have links all around the pages now, so you should be able to easily find it. Mary, you asked to call me earlier just to make sure I'm not crazy. You've
I
got the
did.
impression of me so far. What do you think?
I did. So I think you're pretty normal. You're not actually crazy. So that's a good sign.
You're just being nice because we're on camera and everyone's watching.
So yeah, I just wanted to check out. You never know. Online people can be crazy sometimes. So no, but you're super normal and laid back. So that's pretty good.
A little bit stressed, as you can tell today.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
I'm sure all of you agency owners out there, you know, when you get one of those days that leads call and like clients want revisions or whatnot, you just happen to be in that mode. And on top of that, you have to do a live video. Things get out of hand. And if you have a puppy too, which is chilling and sleeping right now, which is great, but it all
Yeah.
comes in together. Alrighty, but let's get back to the topic. I guess let's introduce ourselves for those of you that don't know us from other groups, right? So, Mary, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep. So I'm Marie. I'm from Rule Your Rankings, and which is a Facebook group, but I also own my own agency, Esice SEO. So Esice is my last name, and since nobody can pronounce my last name, I went ahead and made it my agency name so that now nobody can pronounce my agency name either. But it's so I run
Not
both,
the same thing that I
What is happening?
have.
not mine, somebody's. So if everyone can just turn off your microphone as you are at it, that would be great.
Yeah.
I think there's one mic that hasn't been turned off.
Monica, but I don't see an option to mute it. Okay,
I
Terry.
don't either.
Terry, I apologize. We can move on.
Okay, so I also have kids home. It's summertime now in Texas. So we're all running our agencies. I actually run my agency from home. So I can understand stressful days as well.
Yes.
So go ahead, Dan, and introduce yourself for all of my members that are joining as well so that they know about your group.
Of course. So my name is Dan Bragg. I've been running my agency for about 6 years now. As you can see, chilling in my place as well. And I do have an office space that I go to, but tend not to go there too often. Mainly focused on web design, web development. I do have SEO clients, branding clients as well, but the main focus is websites. That's what I love. That's what I talk about. And just talking about content, that's a regular thing that we're going to be discovering right now, but that's kind of a normal, regular day-to-day thing. And yeah, like I love doing what I do, and that's kind of the mentality that I have with this business, and that really helps. And as you can see, by doing what we're doing right now, this is purely showing that we don't call it work anymore. This is something that we do because we want to do it.
Yeah, it's more of a passion, I think, in our industry. So my focus is more on SEO and not web development like yours.
Yeah.
But we still have the same content issues that you guys have. So it's kind of across the board with agencies.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we all learn how each of the agencies are run or some of the things that we do since we have been doing it for a lot of years. I won't say how many years because I guess it's a lot. So we can go over some of the tips, tricks, and shortcuts that we've learned through the years. I think I learned the hard way. I actually learned by going through all of the mistakes first.
Yeah, of course.
Before I got everything down. So I guess we can pass all that on to everybody else.
So why don't we, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Why don't we start with you saying, what was the first mistake, or so to speak, first thing that happened to you that you were like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done this?
Yeah, so the very first mistake I made was my timelines for payments revolved around me producing a certain level with what they ordered. But it was, all of that was tied around them giving me part of their content, right?
Yeah.
So when they didn't deliver, my paycheck was actually tied to them not delivering, which then became one of the largest mistakes I made in the very beginning.
Yeah.
So I quickly learned not to tie payments to actual payment schedules that depended on them handing me over content because if they, first of all, they're super, super busy. So they don't have a lot of time to work on content.
And
But also if they, yeah, and also if they don't want to pay that week or whatever, and they realize it's tied to any of the content, they'll produce it late.
yeah, I can relate to that as well. And what I noticed a lot with clients is their priority is not their website or their SEO. They care
No.
about their current business, whether it's brick and mortar, whether they're whatever they're doing, and they hire us to take care of the online stuff for them. And that's what they call it, the online stuff. So
Yeah.
when it comes to them doing any type of work, like they're not willing to put the effort into it unless you push them a few times. And like you said, the whole payment structure is a big deal.
Yes, it is. It is. I quickly learned not to tie any type of payment structure around anything that they needed to hand over.
Good. Shannon just gave us a good feedback here on Zoom. Looks like some Monica called instead of actually joining the. I don't know how she called, but interesting. Okay, so technical things that we learn as we go. So the other thing I wanted to go over is like content. How a lot of people ask how to get content. How do you go about clients that don't send you the content, right? And from my mistakes in the past, you covered one of yours. Is that I pretty much expected the client to send it to me, and I expected them to know what to send. And where they made a payment, the deposit, I thought, why would they want to send it off? Is their project. Like it should be a no-brainer that they want to complete it. And that's when I realized that I can't think that way because unless I have some sort of a structure, unless I have some sort of motivation for them to send me the stuff, and then unless I guide them, that's not going to happen.
That's right.
Right. So let's go over a few questions here. And guys, those of you that are watching, ask the questions in the chat. We'll go through them as we see them. But from the Facebook group, we had a few questions here. I think the name is pronounced Lau. Maybe I'm wrong. But how about when they want content that is useless?
That happens. That does happen a lot where the client will have an opinion about adding content that is, in our minds, useless because it either won't help with their SEO or it won't help with someone calling them for their services. So it does come up. I just like to explain to them that it's not going to help them. It's not going to help them get phone calls, or it's not going to help their actual campaign. And if you can explain it to them so that they can understand, which is like, if we added this, you might get 10 less phone calls, or if you add this, it doesn't help to your bottom line at all. A lot of times with me, they'll go ahead and drop that, and they won't add or want to add the content that I feel is useless. Sometimes what the business owner finds, like what they latch onto or what they really want to add to us is useless, whereas to them, they felt it might help them, right? So if I explain that it doesn't help them or it doesn't help the phone ring, they then become detached from it, and it's okay not to add it.
Yeah, part of our job is not just to do the project, but also to guide them and explain to them, right? And one of the things when they send us this content that they believe strongly this is the way to go, like you said, we have to guide them and explain to them that we have to adjust it so that it's not just understandable for them, but also for their audience. Now let's go over how do we actually get them to send the content?
Right. So I can tell you one of my things or strategies that I use. So I switched and started using a questionnaire.
Okay.
So I send them a questionnaire in the very beginning and asks very basic questions like, how long have you been in business? What are the business owner names? Just typical questions. What makes you stand out from your competitors? And it's the questionnaire that I use to then build the actual content. So I'm not waiting on them to send like full-blown paragraphs that will be added to the site, but I'm just waiting for, the 10 to 15 questions that I've asked them, which they are able to return fairly quickly. And so then I'm actually building out the content from the questionnaire, and they are allowed two changes to the actual content upon review. And the actual review is also on a timeline of 48 hours so that it ensures me that they're actually going to read what has been written. They'll submit any revisions.
Yep.
If they have any further revisions after the second time, then it can be revised and added, but it's at an hourly rate that they're aware of.
Okay. That's one way for sure. And that's more so for SEO. I guess for the people in the web design industry, I guess I'll go through the strategy that we go about it. So obviously we have the deposit that they pay at the beginning for the website structure, the website development. Right there and then, before we even start the project, normally we ask if they want our content writing services, right? Because we know already in advance that most clients don't know how to write the content, are not sure how much content to write or what to write about even. A lot of them those are startups. They really have no idea. Those that are already existing, they believe that their content is already great. So if they say no to our content writing services, then I've actually seen someone in the group saying this, I don't start a project unless we have all the content. Now, actually, I have to disagree with that, because doing that, you kind of risking not ever getting that contract, because some clients get tied up with work. Sometimes they forget that they even want a website, and without tying them in with a deposit, they're going to go away because they don't want to spend time writing the content. So what we step in here is the customer service, right? So we start a project and we do what's called placeholders, right? So it can be lore and ipsum. I'm sure most of you know what that is. So we put a bunch of fake text, gibberish text in the areas that we need it to, in the design stage, right? We haven't developed the site yet. That way, when we show them the design stage, the client can look at the website that they're about to get built, and they can decide, okay, this is the content I need for this section. This is what I need for the About Us section. And they know a rough idea how much content they need to fill in those spots. So it's really fill in the blank at that point. And that should be a lot easier. And I've had so many clients that we've done it with that say that was such a much easier way to go about it. They don't have to guess what they need to write about. And what's worse is when they send you documents, 8 pages, 10 pages, that just have big write-ups, and you have to sit there and figure out what content to take out of it and put on the website, right? So that's for the web design stage. For SEO, on top of that, you have to make it SEO friendly too. So let alone you have to read it and adjust it, you also have to make it SEO friendly. So it adds even more work for you, right? So your strategy in that case makes a lot of sense, right? You get the first draft, you make the revisions hourly rate. That's perfect.
Yeah.
The next question we had here is, explain how content place correctly creates snippets. I'm not entirely sure what that question means, but maybe you got it.
Well, that one's a little more detailed and really revolves a lot more around SEO.
Okay.
So we go through it in the group.
Okay.
And it's like a long, detailed project that someone has uploaded to our group that actually will explain to them exactly how to get the snippet. Okay. And I think that would be a lot better than me trying to talk through it.
Right. Okay.
And not be able to show you guys. So I think in the group, if you check out Rule Your Rankings and actually do a search for snippet, you will find a ton of information to help you get the snippets that you need.
Yeah, and I think that kind of steers away from the topic regardless. But let's see here. So we have quite a few questions, Yogesh. When they do not have the budget to pay for content writing and then keep delaying the project for months, saying they're writing it themselves, how should we go about it? Do you want to handle it, or do you want me to answer it?
You can go for that one if you want.
Okay, so you got the deposit, I'm assuming, and now they're delaying the content. The easiest answer I can tell you, and this is right away comes to my head when I hear this question, when clients delaying stuff, get really, really busy. Get more projects. Like I don't sit there and wait for clients, because I have enough projects to get me through to not have to worry about them, right? If they don't want to complete the project, well, I have my deposit. I've done everything up to that deposit part. And if they don't want to send me the rest of the content, that's on them. They're delaying their project. They're delaying their return on investment. And I've had the situations where a client disappears and they never come back because they don't want to write the content or they get busy with other stuff. It happens, right? That happens maybe 10% of the time, maybe less even. But at the end of the day, it's their loss. They lost the full deposit. So that being said, that's one route, of course, to look at it. The other, that doesn't mean that I never follow up with them, right? It doesn't mean that I just drop them, say, okay, whatever, I have other clients. It just means that I'm not going to be urgently sitting there waiting desperately for the next payment. That means we have milestones, we have a contract in place, And if they're willing to hold off, we have a contract that says after a certain amount of time, that's what's going to happen, right? So
Yeah.
either the project is closed completely or we start charging fees, whatever the case is, we have to have clauses. Every business will have it differently, of course. You have to find what works best for you and your business. Here in Canada and the US and so on, the reactions of people to fees and deadlines might be different than outside of it. So you got to really cater to your audience.
Yes, yes. So, and also you work with deposits, whereas I go past the deposit stage. So I'm more on a time based and it's not producing certain parts of the project. So the payments from them will continue.
Right.
So I'm not waiting. So you could even actually have someone pay for everything, but have dropped the project. So, and they will eventually either come back to it at a later stage when they do have more time, or, you know, you may not hear from them again. It just depends on how busy they are, what they have going on, or how they prioritize it. So you have both methods, and really we're not, you know, if they don't want to keep answering or it stalls the project, like you said, we have other projects to keep going on anyway, and it's up to them how they're going to proceed or not proceed.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it all comes down to your contract. Make sure you have a solid one, right? If you don't enforce it, then they're going to play around. They're going to do whatever. Of
Yes.
course, depending on the client, if you like them, if this is the third or fourth project with them, you might want to be lenient. But most clients that respect your time, they will let you know what's happening, and then you can have a mutual agreement, right? But if they're just disrespectful, they don't tell you, they just blatantly ignore you and so on, then you put your own measures to it. If you decide after 30, 60 days that that's it, you're going to charge a new project rate when they come back, that's up
Yeah.
to you, right?
Yes. And I think someone had a really good question. They're asking, does anyone ever ask for their deposit back at this stage? So, which is really interesting. So I have in my contracts that any deposits or fees paid upfront are non-refundable.
100%. You have to have that.
So that's actually in the contract, and that's what they're signing before we actually agree to work together. And so any deposits or payments from that they have paid me is then non-refundable. So I have had a few people ask for the money back, and I've just pointed out that it was non-refundable, and we walked through the contract, and then that's the end of it.
100%. We have the same thing. First line actually of the contract agreement, pretty much saying as soon as the research started, as soon as we started working on this project, no matter how far we got into it, like even if we're a minute in, deposit is non-refundable.
Yes.
It has happened before. The company shut down, they want the money back without even an explanation of what we did wrong. And because of that clause, we're legally protected. And that can really save you a lot of times if you just have that. And I know some people that are starting out, even when I started out, I was a little bit careful with what kind of clauses I have because I didn't want to scare the client off.
Yes, yes.
But I'll tell you what, in 6 years, I've had only maybe one client tell me that my contract is a little bit one-sided. And to them I said, feel free to add whatever clauses you want. I'll review it, and if we agree on it, sure, right? But I've never had anyone saying that those are ridiculous clauses.
Right, I haven't either. And as we go through the years and we get different clients, I think we learn different clauses to put into the contract as we work. I've never had anybody tell me that my contract is ridiculous or they don't want to sign. Actually, they're really not even that concerned with it. I know when I first started, I was also worried about having too many clauses or being super strict that maybe you wouldn't take on the client. But I think the more structured you are and the better contract that you have, I think it's actually the opposite. So they're really not that as concerned with it as we would have thought.
I also noticed that at first when I was worried about all those clauses, and now I'm just like, I don't think they even read them. And for me, it's more so, and this is just a personal thing, if the client really reads the contract in depth, it's almost like a minor red flag for me because I'm worried to work with that client now because they're going to be difficult to work with. And this is just a personal thing. I just know that easygoing clients, they generally just have the trust with you, and they know they've seen your work, they've seen your experience, they have a gut feeling that you're going to do the job right. So they have no reason to thoroughly read that contract. But I still go through it with them because I feel like that's what I need to do. But anyways, away from the topic now. There's quite a bit of questions here. Hold on. Where are we here? You guys already answered that, Terry. So on our web design side, we step charge after waiting 30 days. By the fourth month, we are fully paid for the project. That seems to get them to. Yeah, I agree. So clauses again, like just what we talked about in the contracts, right? Matt, does anyone ever ask for deposit back with the stage?
Right.
Oh, yeah, you already answered that. Shannon, see that back. Yes, good, Shannon. Good pointing out. We do have a contract sample in our group for those of you that want to take a look. Obviously, it's a sample. You have to cater it to your own company. You have to adjust everything that's on there. But this, if you don't have one right now or not sure how to have one, that would be a great start. I know there's quite a bit of tools out there for contracts too.
Yeah.
I think, what is it called? Better Proposal or whatever. I personally don't use those tools because I'm a little bit old school about it. I like it on Word document and PDFs. But if you prefer the platforms and pay for them monthly, by all means.
Yep. I'm old school as well, so I don't use all those fancy softwares.
My camera decided to follow me. What else do we have here? Would you send us your contract? Yes, it's in our group. Take a look in the files.
Yep. And I will post the same link in my group as well so that they can follow it and check it out.
Yeah, that contract, although it is mainly for web design, you can really adjust some lines and it'll be for SEO just as much. I have used it for SEO clients before, so it's not that hard to adjust. Okay, so I think we covered most of the topic. Now, there was one more question I'm trying to remember that somebody asked. When the client sends the content, oh, okay, so I had a client actually. I want to see your opinion on this.
Okay.
Client sends ridiculous amount of content. I'm talking like, I don't know, 45 pages. Right? There was just photos, screenshots of how he wants it laid out and everything, pretty much designing the website through us. And let's say he wants a SEO now, and you're looking at that content and you're just like, holy crap, it's all over the place. There's so much content. What would you do?
So I have been there, done that through our careers. We've all been there. I think I've worked on hundreds of sites now, probably thousands of sites, and there's more pages than you can count, or there's weird PDF pages. There's all kinds of things. So I just straight up, I'm super old school. I just straight up talk to them and let them know that it's a bad design. It's not going to get phone calls. It's not going to work for SEO or whatever. It's not. However, it's not going to work for them. I let them know. Even the same thing with the guys who come in and they have one-page websites, and they love their one-page website, but I have to let them know for SEO purposes, this isn't going to work. So I think we have to be really honest with them, but explain it to them so that they understand, and then you come to some kind of agreement. I'm fortunate, I think now and later in my career, where I can pick and choose who I work with. And so if we can't agree or they can't understand, that I just now will not take that client on. But I do try to explain it thoroughly and let them know all of the pages that they love with their beautiful pictures. They can have some of it, but all 45 pages or however many it is, isn't conducive to them getting more clients.
And to add to that, at the end of the day, here's what we've done, because this particular client was very, how do I put it in a nice term? He really wanted all the content there. And I've tried to advise, hey, look, this is a lot of content. Most likely than not, nobody's going to read it, first of all. And the pages are going to be ridiculously overloaded with content, no matter how much we design it and make it look good. It was still a lot of content. He still wanted it in. And SEO-wise, it was structured that way too. But at the end of the day, if they just want it that way, they're paying you. They're the boss at the end of the day. If that's what they want, as long as you advise them and it's in writing somewhere in email, so later on you have the legal protection if anything happens, you're good.
Yeah.
Or your other option is not to take it.
Yeah. Usually after I've explained it, my viewpoint of it or whatever, usually they'll let go of whatever ridiculous idea that they have. I think it's that they don't understand.
Yeah.
And so it's our job to guide them and help them and get them to understand. And I have not really had a case where I've really explained it well, where they just continue to want, 45 pages of pictures or anything. Usually once I've explained it in detail, they're like, okay, yeah, I understand. And they'll move away from it.
Yeah. I think we covered this topic fairly in depth here. So guys, for those of you watching, feel free to ask questions. Tell us if that helped, if you learned something new. Unlike Facebook, this is going to be no delayed, so we'll see the comments right away.
Right. So Shannon's asking a question.
Yeah.
Do you use any tools or platforms to receive content?
Personally, I don't. I use emails, Gmail mainly. I use Trello to keep everything organized with my guys, and that's about it, really.
Yeah, they're asking about content capturing platforms. So I'm also old school with this. I'm using Trello. I'm using email and even Google Documents and that type of thing. So any of the platforms, I feel like if you can get into the platform, really understand it and use it well, then it's a great asset. But I find a lot of the platforms are time killers, or I just keep reverting back to old school methods. So that's where I'm sticking with now. And I'm not really trying any of the newer ideas or software out there, but you might try it and love it, and it might take out a lot of steps, so it'll help you be more productive. So that would be great.
The way I look at those platforms, all those Content Snare and all those platforms, they're great. The only issue with them is that unless you have so many clients you just can't keep up, like I don't see why you would need to automate that part, because this is more on a personal level where you send out or call them and ask what's going on and maybe guide them. Whereas those platforms will automatically send those emails, and you might actually lose the communication and you might not actually get what you need. So I don't know personally, maybe they're great platforms. I haven't used them, but that's what they sound like to me. Like they're all automated. They're all about to make your life easier, so to speak. But let's be honest, how many clients do you have at a time that you just can't keep up with asking for content, right? I personally have the most amount of projects I had at one time was probably 13, and I was still managing to keep up with it, right? That's a lot of people at the same time. But even then, I wouldn't use an automated platform. Let me see, Matt, can't you just add a clause to the contract saying that there's limitations around the content, and when you have talked about the scope of the project and number of pages we are starting? Yes, so you'll do a discovery session, right, Matt? You'll sit down with them, you analyze the website or SEO service that you're going to be doing for them. You analyze all the contract clauses, all their expectations, their goals, and so on. And based on that alone, you already have a pretty good understanding of what is that they're looking for, how much content roughly is going to be there. I knew when I met with that one difficult client, I knew that based on the conversation of 10 minutes maybe on the phone, by the way they spoke, I could tell there's going to be a lot of content. So I went naturally into that detail, like, so how many pages are we looking at? How much content are you going to be sending? So I started asking those questions, and naturally the contract was geared really much towards that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm protected. I know there's going to be issues. Thank God they weren't, because I really catered around them, but I knew I was prepared for a war at some point.
Yeah, and I think the more structured we are, the better that it helps us. And so also, since we've been in business for a while, when he responds a certain way, you knew what questions to ask next. And I think you really get that with experience. Unfortunately, I don't think it's something that comes in the very beginning. So as I hear certain phrases, even with SEO work, I know to then ask particular questions so that we're able to, guide them and structure the contracts exactly the way that it needs to be structured.
Right. Yogesh asked if there's a questionnaire examples you use to collect content from clients. I do. I honestly don't really use it that much as I would like to, because most of the clients I sit with and I explain to them what we're going to do, and generally they follow the wireframe in a design stage to actually send us the content related to those sections. We do have the sample a sample document that we can send out if needed. And really, I'm assuming for SEO it would be very similar too for content-wise, but you just ask the fields that you need, right? Like about the company, what is it that you want to know about them? What services do you offer, right? For SEO, address, social media, and so on, right?
Yes.
So you just ask for those things, and they just fill in the blank.
Yeah, you're just asking for everything that you would need to complete the job.
Yeah, pretty much. There's nothing fancy. You don't have to overdo it. I don't even have to design it much, because content is content. I don't need to be a pretty looking document for them. Matt, what are you using for wireframe? It's a little bit out of the topic here. We use basic Photoshop, Sketch, nothing special. You guys show, sorry, I meant what questions to ask them if they want us to create content. So we just went over that. What do you need to know about them, right? What questions would you need to ask so that you can build their site? So if they're a construction company, what do you want to know about them? Well, what services do they offer? Do they offer demolition? Do they offer renovations, like so to speak, right? How long they've been in business for? A little bit of history about them. Who are the competitors, right? All the information that you will need to do proper research.
Yes, yep. And as you work with different clients, you'll start to realize exactly what questions you need them to answer. So you might go through a few clients before you really nail it down really well. But you want to get as much of the information up front as you can, because the more you can have it structured and the less you keep bothering them, the better the campaign runs.
And to help out, because I noticed quite a few people asked about it, I'll take the sample of the document that I have ready and I'll post it in the groups. And I'll only do so if everyone that's watching this right now is going to comment about this video right now and say something nice that you learned, or something bad, I guess. And
No, nothing bad.
nothing bad. I hope nothing bad. I don't imagine anything bad.
Don't ask for anything bad. People go crazy.
Right. Feel free to mention what you've learned. That's kind of what I want to hear. And yeah, I think we should wrap it up now. It's over.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think we went through everything as much as we could. And if you guys have further questions, leave them in the groups and we'll be there to answer them.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining, guys. Thank you, Mary, for doing this with me.
Thanks, Dan. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.